Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to dig into complex ideas and, pull out those crucial insights you really need. Today, we're tackling something that affects so many of us, often quietly, sedentary diseases. We're going to focus particularly on type 2 diabetes. We've got some great material here to help us understand the causes and maybe more importantly, how we can actually prevent these conditions.
Yeah. What's really striking is how these everyday habits, things that seem harmless, can just sort of snowball over time into quite serious health problems. So our goal here, our mission with this deep dive, is to pull out the practical stuff, the actionable insights you can use to take control, turning those daily choices into, well, powerful prevention.
Okay, let's unpack that term then. Sedentary diseases, we hear it thrown around, but what exactly are we talking about?
Well, at its heart, it really refers to health issues that stem from basically a lack of physical activity. Think of it like the metabolic price we pay for our modern lives. Sitting too much, moving way too little.
And it's not just one specific disease, is it? What are the common ones that fall into this category?
That's right. It's more like a group of related problems. Type 2 diabetes is probably the most well-known. That's where your body struggles with insulin, either not making enough or not using it properly. But it often goes hand in hand with things like obesity, high blood pressure, and various kinds of heart disease, too.
Right. And here's something from the material that really stood out to me. Maybe it's a bit sobering. These things don't happen suddenly. They build up.
Exactly. And that's precisely why we need to pay attention. These diseases, they tend to develop silently, often no obvious symptoms for years. They might only really show up when they're more advanced, harder to deal with. It just highlights how vital early awareness and, proactive prevention really are, long before any diagnosis.
So, thinking about our modern lives, it really does feel like everything is set up to keep us in chairs, doesn't it? Work, entertainment, everything.
Oh, absolutely. If you connect the dots, our daily routines are, well, they're a big part of the problem. Working from home, binge watching, scrolling social media for hours, even studying. All these things mean we're parked, sedentary for huge chunks of the day. We've kind of swapped movement for convenience.
And what's actually going on in our bodies when we sit for that long, like physiologically?
Yeah, this is the critical part. Sitting for long periods, it really slows down your metabolism quite significantly. It makes it harder for your body to manage blood sugar effectively and blood pressure, too. Over time, this leads to something called insulin resistance. Insulin is like a key, right? Opens your cells for sugar. With resistance, those cell locks get sticky. Insulin has to work harder. Your pancreas pumps out more and more until it just can't keep up anymore. And that path leads directly to type 2 diabetes. It's quite a chain reaction. What's interesting, though, the material points out that even just like 5 minutes of light walking can start to reverse some of the immediate negative effects on your arteries from sitting.
Wow, okay. So knowing our sitting habits are actually changing our body chemistry. What's the fix? How do we get moving more without, suddenly needing a gym membership we might not even use?
Well, the advice in the material is actually really practical, very down to earth. The solution starts with just breaking up your sitting time. Every 30 to 60 minutes, just get up. Even standing and walking around for 5 minutes, it makes a real measurable difference to your blood flow, your metabolism. Frequency is key.
Yeah, okay, so give us some examples. What are those tiny habits the source mentions, the kind of things you can weave into the day without much fuss?
Sure. We're talking simple stuff. Taking the stairs instead of the lift, pacing when you're on the phone, maybe doing a few squats or lunges during TV ads or while the kettle boils. These little actions, they aren't just about calories. They actively engage your muscles. They improve how your body responds to insulin, boost circulation almost right away.
Is there a good daily target to aim for? Something concrete?
The recommendation is surprisingly simple, actually. Aim for about 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day. And the main point here is you don't need a gym. You don't need fancy gear. You just need a commitment to weave activity throughout your whole day. Your environment is the equipment.
Okay, movement is one piece, but what we put in our bodies, our fuel, that has a huge impact too, maybe even more direct on blood sugar. The material seems pretty blunt about what we should avoid.
Oh, it's crystal clear on that. The main things to cut back on or cut out are processed foods and sugary stuff. So definitely say no to fizzy drinks, most packaged snacks. They're basically designed to hit your blood sugar hard and fast, which really strains your insulin system over time.
So if those are the things to skip, what should we be leaning into? What are the good guys here for metabolic health?
Right, so you want to pivot towards fiber-rich foods, Lots of colorful fruits and vegetables, lentils, beans, whole grains, things like that. The material specifically mentions choosing foods with a low glycemic index. These release sugar slowly, steadily. No big spikes, which is much kinder to your insulin system. And, of course, swapping sugary drinks for water. Simple, but really effective.
There's a line in the material that really made me pause. Diabetes doesn't start in your 60s. It begins with every bad habit in your 20s. That's quite a stark reminder, isn't it, about how much influence we have early on.
It really is. And it brings up a key question for you listening right now. Are the habits you're building today, your dietary habits, setting you up for problems later? It just underscores that long-term compounding effect of what seem like small daily choices. Every meal matters for your future health.
And it's not just food and movement, is it? The material also gets into other really important lifestyle bits. Sleep, for example. What's the connection there?
Yeah, sleep is fascinating. It's often treated like a luxury, something you cut back on when you're busy. But metabolically, it's essential. Poor sleep, it doesn't just make you groggy, it actually messes with your hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin. Makes you crave junk food, basically. High sugar stuff. Plus, it affects cortisol, your stress hormone, and that can directly spike blood sugar, contribute to insulin resistance. So the recommendation is pretty firm. Aim for a consistent 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night.
Okay, and stress. How does that fit into the metabolic picture?
Stress also has a direct line to blood sugar. Again, largely through that cortisol mechanism you mentioned. Chronic stress keeps your body sort of perpetually in that fight or flight state, pumping out glucose. The material suggests things like deep breathing exercises, maybe journaling, or just making time to be in nature, things to manage stress levels. The message is pretty straightforward. A calmer mind often means a healthier body, metabolically speaking.
Right. And finally, the source really pushes for being proactive, not just waiting around for a diagnosis. What does that look like practically?
Well, for you, the listener, the advice is if you're over 25 and generally not very active, get a blood sugar test done once a year. This is so important because prediabetes, which tons of people have without knowing, can often be completely turned around if you catch it early. The material also suggests tracking things, your daily steps, maybe keeping an eye on weight trends, even logging sleep. Using that data to guide your choices, it empowers you to make changes before things become a serious issue.
So wrapping this deep dive up,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway? It really feels like these conditions, like type 2 diabetes, are largely preventable.
Absolutely. That's the hopeful message here. You don't necessarily need a doctor to initiate change. What you need is discipline. Consistency. The material is really clear. Consistent movement, eating mindfully, prioritizing sleep, stress management, embracing these small, deliberate daily habits, it can fundamentally change your health trajectory. It's truly an investment with lifelong returns.
So true. And with that, maybe here's a final thought for you to take away. The material reminds us, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. All right. So it's just one small habit, something manageable that you could start today that will make your body a healthier, maybe happier place to be tomorrow. Something to think about.